Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back to Honey's Divine Light. Today I'm starting something a little different, a spiritual reading series inspired by the book Who Moved My Cheese. I read this book about 7 years ago and it really opened my eyes to how much we fight change without realizing it. So I thought, why not read it together again, but this time with fresh eyes, new experiences, and a deeper understanding of life. My intention for this series is to help you see change in a softer, more spiritual way, not as something to fear, but something that moves you closer to your purpose. During this reading series, I would love for you guys to engage and interact in the comments. I want to know what you guys are learning, how you're interpreting the messages that come forward from the book, and any other information or comments that you would like to share. I love reading your reflections, so let's keep this a safe and peaceful place to talk about change. Comment below some things that you're learning to let go of. You never know who might need to hear that they're not alone. To start reading. I might stumble upon my words here and there, but please guys, do not judge me. Okay, so we're gonna start with parts of all of us, the simple and the complex. The four imaginary characters depicted in this story, the mice, Sniff and Scurry, and the little people, Hem and Haw, are intended to represent the simple and the complex parts of ourselves, regardless of our age, gender, race, or nationality. Sometimes we may act like Sniff, who sniffs out change early, or Scurry, who scurries into action, or Hem, who denies and resists change as he fears it will lead to something worse, or Haw, who learns to adapt in the time when he sees changing leads to something better. Whatever parts of us we choose to use, we all share something in common, a need to find our way in the maze and succeed in changing times. The Story Behind the Story by Kenneth Blanchard, PhD. I am thrilled to be telling you the story behind the story of Who Moved My Cheese, because it means the book has now been written and is available for all of us to read, enjoy, and share with others. This is something I've wanted to see happen ever since I first heard Spencer Johnson tell his great cheese story years ago before we wrote our book, The 1 Minute Manager, together. I remember thinking then how good the story was and how helpful it would be to me from that moment on. Who Moved My Cheese is a story about change that takes place in a maze where four amusing characters look for cheese. Cheese being a metaphor for what we want to have in life, whether it is a job, a relationship, money, a big house, freedom, health, recognition, spiritual peace, or even an activity like jogging or golf. Each of us have our own idea of what cheese is, and we pursue it because we believe it makes us happy. If we get it, we often become attached to it, and if we lose it or it's taken away, it becomes traumatic. The maze in the story represents where you spend your time looking for what you want. It can be the organization you work in, the community you live in, or the relationships you have in your life. I tell the cheese story that you are about to read in my talks around the world and often hear later from people about what a difference it has made to them. Believe it or not, this little story has been credited with saving careers, marriages, and lives. One of many real-life examples come from Charlie Jones, a well-respected broadcaster from NBC TV, who revealed that hearing the story of Who Moved My Cheese saved his career. His job as a broadcaster is unique, but the principles he learned can be used by anyone. Here's what happened. Charlie had worked hard and had done a great job of broadcasting track and field events at an earlier Olympic Games. So he was surprised and upset when his boss told him he'd been removed from these showcases for the next Olympics and assigned to swimming and diving. Not knowing these sports as well, he was frustrated. He felt unappreciated and he became angry. He said he felt it wasn't fair. His anger began to affect everything he did. Then he heard of the story Who Moved My Cheese. After that, he said he laughed at himself and changed his attitude. He realized his boss had just moved his cheese, so he adapted. He learned the two new sports, and then the process found that doing something new made him feel young. It wasn't long before his boss recognized his new attitude and energy, and he soon got better assignments. He went on to enjoy more success than ever and was later inducted into Pro Football Hall of Fame, Broadcasters Alley. That's just one of the many real-life stories I've heard about the impact this story has had on people from their work life to their love life. I'm such a strong believer in the power of Who Moved My Cheese that I gave a copy of an early pre-publication edition to everyone, more than 200 people, working with our company. Why? Because like every company that wants to not only survive in the future, but stay competitive, the Ken Blanchard companies are constantly changing. They keep moving our cheese, while in the past we may have wanted loyal employees. Today we need flexible people who are not possessive about the way things are done around here. And yet, as you know, living in the constant white water with the changes occurring all the time at work or in life can be stressful unless people have a way of looking at change that helps them understand it. Enter the cheese story. When I told people about the story, then they got to read Who Moved My Cheese. You could almost feel the release of negative energy beginning to occur. Person after person from every department went out of their way to thank me for the book and told me how helpful it had been to them, already in seeing the changes going on in our company in a different light. Believe me, this brief parable takes little time to read, but its impact can be profound. As you turn the pages, you will find 3 sections in this book. In the first, a gathering former classmates talks about a class reunion about trying to deal with the changes happening in their lives. The second section is the story of Who Moved My Cheese, which is the core of the book. In the story, you will see the 2 mice do better when they are faced with change because they keep things simple, while the 2 little people's complex brains and human emotions complicate things. It is not that the mice are smarter. We all know people are more intelligent than mice. However, as you watch what the 4 characters do and realize both the mice and the little people represent parts of ourselves, the simple and the complex, you can see it would be to our advantage to do simple things that work when things change. In the third section, a discussion, people discuss what the story meant to them and how they are going to use it in their work and in their everyday lives. Some readers of this book, early manuscript, preferred to stop at the end of the story without reading further and interpret its meaning for themselves. Others enjoyed reading a discussion that follows because it stimulated their thinking about how they might apply what they've learned to their own situation. In any case, I hope each time you reread Who Moved My Cheese, you will find something new and useful in it, as I do, and that it will help you deal with change and bring you success, whatever you decide success is for you. I hope you enjoy what you discover, and I wish you well. Remember, move with the cheese. The story of Who Moved My Cheese. Once long ago, in a land far away, there lived 4 little characters who ran through a maze looking for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. 2 were mice named Sniff and Scurry, and 2 were little people beings who were as small as mice but who looked and acted a lot like people today. Their names were Hem and Haw. Due to their small size, it would be easy not to notice what the 4 of them were doing. But if you look closely enough, you could discover the most amazing things. Every day, the mice and the little people spent time in the maze looking for their own special cheese. The mice, Sniff and Scurry, possessing only simple rodent brains but good instincts, searched for the hard, nibbling cheese they liked, as mice often do. The 2 little people, Hem and Haw, used their brains filled with many beliefs and emotions to search for a very different kind of cheese, with a capital C, which they believed would make them feel happy and successful. As different as the mice and little people were, they shared something in common. Every morning, they each put on their jogging suits, running shoes, left their little homes, and raced out into the maze looking for their favorite cheese. The maze was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, some containing delicious cheese, but there were also dark corners and blind alleys leading nowhere. It was an easy place for anyone to get lost. However, for those who found their way, the maze held secrets that let them enjoy a better life. The mice, Sniff and Scurry, used the simple trial and error method of finding cheese. They ran down one corridor, and if it proved empty, they turned and ran down another. They remembered the corridors that held no cheese and quickly went into new areas. Sniff would smell out the general direction of the cheese using his great nose, and Scurry would race ahead. They got lost, as you might expect, went off in the wrong direction, and often bumped into walls. But after a while, they found their way. Like the mice, the two little people, Hem and Haw, also used their ability to think and learn from their past experiences. However, they relied on their complex brains to develop more sophisticated methods of finding cheese. Sometimes they did well, but at other times their powerful human beliefs and emotions took over and clouded the way they looked at things. It made life in the maze more complicated and challenging. Nonetheless, Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw all discovered in their own way what they were looking for. They each found their own kind of cheese one day at the end of the corridors in Cheese Station C. Every morning after that, the mice and the little people dressed in their running gear and headed over to Cheese Station C. It wasn't long before they each established their own routine. Sniff and Scurry continued to wake early every day and race through the maze, always following the same route. When they arrived at their destination, the mice took off their running shoes, tied them together, and hung them around their necks so they could get them quickly whenever they need them again. They enjoyed the cheese. In the beginning, Hem and Haw also raced toward Cheese Station C every morning to enjoy the tasty new morsels that awaited them. But after a while, a different routine set in for the little people. Hem and Haw awoke each day a little later, dressed a little slower, and walked into Cheese Station C. After all, they knew where the cheese was now and how to get there. They had no idea where the cheese came from or who put it there. They just assumed it would be there. As soon as Hem and Haw arrived at Cheese Station C each morning, they settled in and made themselves at home. They hung up their jogging suits, put away their running shoes, and put on their slippers. They were becoming very comfortable now that they had found the cheese. "This is great," Hem said. "There's enough cheese here to last us forever." The little people felt happy and successful and thought they were now secure. It wasn't long before Hem and Haw regarded the cheese they found at Cheese Station C as their cheese. It was such a large store of cheese that they eventually moved their homes to be closer to it and built a social life around it. To make themselves feel more at home, Hem and Haw decorated the walls with sayings and even drew pictures of cheese around them, which made them smile. One read, "Having cheese makes you happy." Sometimes Hem and Haw would take their friends by to see their pile of cheese at Cheese Station C and point to it with pride, saying, "Pretty nice cheese, huh?" Sometimes they shared it with their friends and sometimes they didn't. "We deserve this cheese," Hem said. "We certainly had to work long and hard enough to find it." He picked up a nice fresh piece and ate it. Afterwards, Hem fell asleep, as often he did. Every night, the little people would waddle home full of cheese, and every morning they would confidently return for more. This went on for quite some time. After a while, Hem and Haw's confidence grew into an arrogance of success. Soon they became so comfortable they didn't even notice what was happening.